Hey there, folks. Long time no video, right? Anyway, let's go ahead and get started. I got the new Easy Flash. This is the Easy Flash Air. How the hell was this bag sealed? Here we go. This is, as I understand it, supposed to be a replacement for the original Easy Flash Omega. Or I guess not exactly a replacement, but more like a third pillar or something. Wait, where have I heard that before? Definitely not from Nintendo. Anyway, new flash cart from Easy Flash. If you order one of these, this is what you get. You get a plain old blue box and a flash cart and nothing else. I'm guessing they reused the packaging from the other. Well, I don't have to guess. I have the packaging right here. I could just look. No, they didn't. They went through an entirely new process for that. That's a weird decision, but all right. For every other flash cart, they reused the packaging. Anyway, moving on. So for some of their other flash carts, they came with different cases. Like the original Omega came with two style cases, one so that you could fit it into a GBA, and then another so that it was so you could slide it into a DS Lite and it would be nice and flush. Not this. This is also an Easy Flash, but not this. I think the Omega Definitive Edition, there were options for different colors, but I don't think it came with anything. Anyway, that's besides the point. You get this and nothing else. You need an SD card. We'll get back to that in a moment. One thing I'm noticing about the casing is, unlike the Omega Definitive Edition, the Easy Flash Air, it's quite a bit more transparent. It's clear instead of being smoke, but to me, it looks like the texture is different. So on the ODE, the texture is quite rough, and it results in more translucent than transparent, whereas this one, the Easy Flash Air, is quite nice and transparent, which I like because I like transparent things. Before getting into this, I want to take it apart because when this thing came out, I was very frustrated that I couldn't see what the heck the back looked like. And now we're going to find out. I'm thinking, and now that I have this in hand and I'm looking at it, it looks a lot like they just reused the casing for the Easy Flash Omega Definitive Edition, which makes sense. That's smart. Which, actually, let's take this apart while we're at it, too. And we'll try them out. So, it makes sense. Oh, I suppose I can get rid of this. I haven't needed that in a long time. Don't mind me. Yeah, so the two big chips, the not PSRAM, what is this? NOR Flash and the FPGA are in the exact same place. Though I suppose on the Definitive Edition, it is technically a different chip. But it's in the same place with about the same size, so probably using the same cutout. Oh no, actually, they refined it now that I have these side by side. I keep talking before looking. It's going to be the end of me. Okay. On the front side of things, it looks like everything is exactly in the same place, aside from the new battery holder that looks like the same size battery. No, it's not. I don't know what the new one is. The old one, oh, I thought the old one was a 1220. The new one is a 1220. The old one is a 1025. Okay, well, 1220 is better. More common size, easier to find things. I think it's the exact same size as the Everdrive too, but whatever, doesn't matter. But yeah, on the front, this whole cluster right here is identical. And then they just have a few of the components on the top left moved over to make room for the bigger battery holder. Maybe they moved that stuff over to the back. Yeah, I guess so. Oh yeah, it's already here. But otherwise, yeah, you could see the Air doesn't have this U4 chip here. The Air is actually missing a lot of the features of the Easy Flash Definitive Edition, which I guess makes sense given the reduced cost. So I don't know how much Easy Flash is charging for these things, but I do know how much Retro Game Repair Shop is selling them for. And so my question, my curiosity is this thing worth half the cost? Because the Omega Definitive Edition is sold for 80 bucks, and the Easy Flash Air is sold for 40 bucks. The ODE seems to fit in the Air case. I'm guessing the opposite is not true. Oops. That's the Air. I can't even tell them apart. Ha! Should have been obvious with the SD card. Okay, but yeah, that's true. That's still true. You can see the cutouts aren't quite sized right, but they're still big enough to cover everything that they need to cover. And I'm confident it'll close, but let's just verify. Yeah. So I'm guessing they don't sell these anymore, and they've just moved their lineup to the new ones. Oh, but then again, it still fits. I don't know what's up with that. Oh, no, it doesn't fit. Not right. You can see it's sticking up. And that's because that cutout is not sized appropriately for the larger chip. Okay, that makes sense. I feel better now. All right, so that's enough about the physicality of these things. Let's move into the function of these things. As soon as I get these things back together. So fortunately or unfortunately, depending on which camp you're in, these things do not come with micro SD cards, which normally I wouldn't mind. These sellers tend to use whatever they can get in bulk, and those bulk purchased cards tend to not be the most reliable variety. And so usually you end up using your own card. The problem in this specific case is I'm out of SD cards. So we're just going to borrow the one from my Everdrive for now. But anyway, I've got 4 carts in front of me because I want to try and do a comparison for power usage and feature set. This is, despite the label, this is an OEM game. This is my Pokemon Emerald that I've had since like 2005 or whenever the heck these things came out. It's seen better days, hence the non-original label and case at this point. But you know, still works. Still good for comparison and measurement purposes. And then on these two flash carts, I have the ROM of this game, so we can run them side by side and do some comparisons. Obviously, this is going to boot a lot faster, the original game, because there's no menu. There's nothing to go through. But I'm also fairly confident it's going to be a lot easier on power consumption. So I have it right here side by side so we can gather some numbers and make a direct comparison. So first things first, we need a Game Boy here. I'm going to go ahead and use my slate for this. This is my early prototype, but it happens to be my favorite Game Boy, so of course I'm going to use it. Everything should go just the way I envision it, but just in case. For best comparison, treat this as a modified Game Boy Advance SP, because that's what it is. In effect, the only modification is the backlight kit. So if you have a Game Boy Advance SP that has been backlit, this is effectively the same thing, just in a slightly different form factor. I just wanted to make sure that this booted properly because I just updated the firmware on this thing. Apparently 1.17 came out at some point and I just never noticed. I'm not 100% sure what's new, but I was already gathering the firmware for for the Air here, so I went ahead and updated the Everdrive at the same time. So feature set, all three of these cards support, for the most part, darn near every feature you might want. That is to say, they all have real-time clock, they all can back up the save files to the SD card, that sort of thing. They all have a nice, easy-to-use GUI. They all have cheats, but some things that the Easy Flash support that the Everdrive does not. Both the Easy Flashes support rumble. Pretty sure the Everdrive does not do that. Yeah, the Everdrive does not do that. Gosh, what else was it? There's some features that Easy Flash has built into the UI that may or may not appeal to you. In my case, I don't really care for them, but hey, you do you. I know the Easy Flash cards support cheats. I'm fairly certain the Everdrive does as well. Looks like there's a built-in soft reset thing, which, if I recall correctly, is part of the add-on menu. Yeah, the Air only has reset and cheat. The original Omega and the Omega Definitive Edition both do save states. The Everdrive and the Easy Flash Air do not appear to do save states. The Omega Definitive Edition and the Easy Flash Air also have a Mode B support, which is going to make the cartridge behave a little bit more like an OEM cartridge. The Everdrive also doesn't do that. Mode B is going to be helpful for a few different things. The two that are coming to mind most of all are like slot 2 functionality on a DS. So if you're playing, I guess the most common example would be like 4th gen Pokemon game. You can insert your 3rd gen Pokemon game into the other slot and import your Pokemon from that. I'm sure there's others, but nothing's coming to mind. I obviously only play Pokemon. That's just how it is. Deal with it. There's also a RAM expansion mode only on the Omega Definitive Edition, and technically on this Easy Flash, but they haven't sold this thing in a long time. That works with the DS, so if you use the DS web browser, which I'm sure it technically still works, but it's a 20-year-old browser without patches running on 20-year-old hardware. It's not great. If you can even get the stupid DS hooked up to the internet now, they don't support modern encryption. Anyway, that's not on the Easy Flash Air. It probably affects no one, but hey. And there's this last feature called NDS Link, which I have no idea what that is, but apparently the Air supports it and the original Omega did not. I can't remember. I remember running into this problem last time. It even says right here, link. I don't remember what that is. But it looks like you can also set it to rumble mode, which weirdly isn't on the feature set. But if you have it set to rumble mode and you plug it into a DS games that support rumble will rumble. Or in rumble mode, if you plug it into an analog pocket, oh man, I don't even know when that happened. Whoops. Plug it into an analog pocket and you use one of the cores that supports rumble, it'll go ahead and use that. I can't remember which cores do. Whatever, it doesn't matter. I'm getting ahead of myself. So this thing came with firmware 1, kernel 1. There is an update. I'm holding the wrong button. I'm pretty sure I need to hold L or R. Nope. It is L. Oh wait, that's firmware. Interesting. Let's see what happens. Anyway, as of time of filming, we're on 1.02. I'm pretty sure that was not what I wanted to do, but let's find out. It should have done nothing. Yeah, did nothing. Cool. Now we'll hold the correct button, R. There it goes. Ta-da! And now we are on 1.02. All right, so settings, we have the time. I can set that. I'm not going to bother. It doesn't matter. I don't even have a dedicated SD card for this thing. I'm not going to use it. Language, I'm going to leave that on English. Autosave. In my experience with the Easy Flash Definitive Edition, I like having autosave off. When autosave is off, my understanding is that the UI is supposed to prompt you, and then you can, either say, yes, I want you to back up my save. No, I don't want you to back up my save. With how this specific cart works, that might be a little bit less relevant, because chances are pretty good you're going to be writing your game to the, I have to look at it, nor flash, and then you're just going to leave it in mode B the entire time, and then when you want to switch games, then you're going to boot back into the menu, and that's when it's going to be time to write back your save. However, it's worth keeping in mind that this cart uses SRAM for the save. S, as in Sally. There you go. My brain is failing me with my NATO alphabet right now, but whatever, you get the point. That means if the battery inside the cartridge dies, it will not hold a save after you power the thing off. Keep that in mind. It's still bothering me that I only have 2 options for Rumble and Link, or for Mode B. I want to see what the Omega Definitive Edition has. I suppose I could just boot these things side by side. It's not... See? This one prompts me. I want to hit no, because I haven't actually played the thing yet. There we go. Rumble, RAM, and Cart on the Omega Definitive Edition. I'm guessing Cart is Link on the other one, because Rumble is Rumble. Weird. And then the Air just doesn't have the RAM mode because it doesn't have the RAM chip on it. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. All right. Let us, before doing any power testing, let us move on and test this out. These things make awful noises on nickel metal hydride batteries with flash cards. Oh, gotta love it. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to test power usage. I want to... Do I not? Oh, it's not in alphabetical order. That's why it's throwing me off. Let's boot Pokemon Emerald. All right, so we have 2 options here. We can write it to NOR clean or write it to NOR add-on. The difference between the two, I'm going to cancel out of that, is in the add-on menu, if you have either of these options enabled, it will enable that in-game. So reset allows you to soft reset the game with a button combo, and it'll bring you back to the Easy Flash menu. Pokemon itself, which is the game I'm going to be testing for, already has a soft reset mode in it, so I'm not going to bother patching that in, because they're going to conflict. And realistically, if I'm using that button combo, I don't want to exit the game. I just want to restart it. And the other option is cheat. This thing uses Game Genie cheats. I'm pretty sure all the flash carts do. I have neither of those enabled, so using that option is not going to do anything for me. Save type, you can usually leave this on auto, but if you know what you're doing, some games you might have to manually specify. I'm fairly certain there's a database already set up in this thing, and I haven't ever found a game that doesn't work. just out of the box, except for some factory test carts. But that kind of makes sense. Those aren't really common games. But anyway, we're going to write to nor clean, but first I'm going to get this pulled up on here as well. And so on the Easy Flash, on the definitive edition, we have more options. I can write it to nor clean, write it to nor add-on, same as the Air. I have the save type, same, and the cheats, same. I have cheats on here. I don't know why it's not populated. I must have done that wrong, but it could also be that I used the SD card from the Everdrive and just didn't set it up right, but whatever. But the definitive edition also has clean boot, which is probably what you're used to whenever you think of flash cards. So I'm going to go ahead and boot these with the default option, and we're going to see which one boots quicker. I know it's the definitive edition, but I just want a dramatic effect or something. I don't know. Let's go ahead and boot these up, though. The Game Boy itself makes no difference. They should both be the exact same speed. I'll wait. We'll get there eventually, don't worry. I suppose I can tangent while we're waiting. Almost all of the numbers on this thing are little b, not big B, so we're dealing with bits, not bytes. So my game is 128 megabits, which I believe is 16 megabytes. So if the numbers look wrong, double check that they're the units you're thinking they are. Oh, didn't even boot. Let's try it again. There it goes. How about that? That is way too loud. Okay, yeah, that didn't import a save. That's fine. I don't have anything set up, but I do have it on that one. Let's try that again. Hey, see? Now it's prompting me. In this case, I am going to back it up. And in this case, I'm not going to back it up. All right, so we're going to try that again. Ooh, I don't have the recently played menu because there's no direct boot. It just drops you into what's written on the NOR flash. So I'm fairly certain if I go down here and try booting this again. Oh, see, yeah, in this menu, it's in megabytes. So it shows 16 megabytes. I'm going to try. Ooh, it's writing it again. I didn't think that would happen. I thought it would just direct boot. Let's try. I don't think I have. Oh, I do have something on my NOR. How do I delete this? Easy, just like that. I'm going to write this to NOR on the definitive edition and see which one's faster. I'm guessing they're going to be the same speed. That is looking like the exact same speed. That's reasonable. Okay. Go, baby, go. Go. Oh, and now I have 2 copies on my NOR. We're going to delete the second one. All right, so I have mode B set to link, which I'm fairly certain means it's going to direct boot. So I'm going to go ahead and flip the switch on this bad boy to mode B. And then if I insert it here it should just directly boot into my game. And indeed it does. In fact, I can do the exact same thing with my definitive edition here. And usually it just works. Old Game Boy. It happens. Okay, well, I assure you it normally works. Maybe the flash on this specific cart is bad. Believe it or not, I never actually tested it. One criticism with these things that they didn't adjust is that that switch is a pain in the butt to hit. Weird. Might have to reflash that. I don't really want to wait for it though. In most cases, you're probably not using the NOR flash on the definitive edition regardless. You're probably using the direct boot, which dumps the game into the RAM that this cartridge doesn't have, and then boots from there. It's quick, it works well, it lets you swap between games really quickly. This cart doesn't have that. But once you're in this mode, it does work pretty nicely. That's weird. There should certainly be battery for real-time clock. That might be a firmware thing. That might be a menu option that I messed up. We'll circle back. I need a save file on here first, so we're gonna go through the intro real quick. Because I want to test mode B and ensure that it still works with multi-boot. So today, I will be a boy, and I will be Mako. Every time, I always forget to set the text speed. We did it. We made it fast. And L equals A. All right. So we save, turn it off, turn it back on. It should just boot back into the game, and my save should still be there, unless the battery did arrive dry, which I didn't actually check. Yes. Excellent. Still got my save. All right, let's swippy swappy flip that back. Just leave the tweezers out. Clearly I'm gonna need them a lot. And we should boot into the menu, and it should prompt me to, oh, it didn't prompt me. How very fascinating. Save file? File exists, cover it. Okay. I'm pretty sure save file means back it up to the SD card. We'll find out in a moment. First, reset cheat. Yeah, this one doesn't have an RTC option. That's bizarre. Let us set the date and time, even though I said I wasn't going to. Oh my goodness. And see if it holds. I'm pretty sure today's the 26th. I have no idea what time it is. It's probably after 5. I have no idea. We're just going to set that to that. Okay. We'll boot into that so I don't have to swap it back to mode B. Oh, now it's not saying my battery's dry. Maybe that was the problem. I just didn't initially set anything. I should have actually moved so I can tell it's a different... I shouldn't have exited the truck though. Yes, wonderful, thank you. Let's go check out my new room. Go back into the menu and we'll try that other option. Load save. Hit no because I don't want to back that up. Load save file. Save file has been loaded. Boot. Now, when I continue, I should be in the truck once again. Ta-da! And indeed I am. Excellent. Let's try one more thing and then we're going to go into the power usage. Going to set that to mode B. And we're going to throw it in the DS and see what happens. Okay, that's not what I expected. It's recognizing the GBA game, but it's not recognizing the flash cart that I have inserted and haven't removed since last time I used it. Which was 10 minutes ago when I double-checked to make sure that this would work. Okay. So I'm going to boot into some homebrew instead of a Pokemon game. I just want to see if it recognizes the card in slot 2, and indeed it does. It shows as Pokemon Emerald. It should be able to dump the save no problem as well. And unfortunately, I can't verify that it dumped correctly, but I'm fairly certain we're good. It recognizes the game. That's probably good enough. I know for a fact that the definitive edition does work for this thing. I can't see how they would have messed that up since it's a direct port of the firmware. So we're gonna call that a success, even though it's difficult to verify. And I'm done with the DS for now. Okay. Last up, I suppose, let's do some power usage testing. I don't need that anymore. We're going to use the slate for this. Remove my bateria. Get the power supply that I just closed in my drawer. And plug it in so that I can power this thing, bypassing the battery, and get a nice little power usage meter out of it. So I already have this thing set to 3.7 volts and over 1 amp, which should be heaps. So let's get a baseline. In here I have my original Pokemon Emerald game. Again, backlit Game Boy Advance SP, so the power usage is going to be quite a bit higher than stock. In fact, it's going to be close to double. Excuse me one sec. All right. Close to double. Keep that in mind. In the overworld, in this Pokemon game, I'm in a different place and I'm going to test all the other ones, but it shouldn't make a difference. So the console is at 3.7 volts, and it is pulling 149 to 159 milliamps, which is just over half a watt. That's about what I expect. It's high for this sort of thing, like I said, but that's the backlight more than anything else. Next, we're going to move on to the Everdrive. I like the spring-loaded SD card slot, but I'm not sure it's worth the extra expense and fewer features just for that. And Pokemon Emerald, right there. So just in the menu of the flash cart, it's 172 to 180 milliamps, which is already higher. Loading, I saw a spike of 193, which makes sense. It's rating the game to flash storage, or I guess to RAM. The Everdrive works the same way. And in-game, look at that. It's the exact same save, just in a slightly different spot. The console's pulling 172 to 181 milliamps, which is about 0.6 watts. So just a skosh higher, just a little bit higher, little bit more power usage. Probably noticeable over the course of an entire charge, but not that significant. Next, we will try the Definitive Edition, both in NOR mode, unless that just doesn't work, and direct boot mode. All right, so in the menu, it's about where the Easy Flash was, or the Everdrive, at 162 to 167, 68 milliamps. Boot the game. Direct boot, I saw a spike as high as 230 milliamps. And in-game, console's pulling 187 to 189 milliamps? 191. Oh, I saw 183 to 191. So again, just a little bit more than the Everdrive, but also more than the original cart. I'd say it's probably more noticeable between an original game and the Easy Flash Omega Definitive Edition than it is between an original game and the Everdrive. But again, still, we're probably talking, you know, I suppose it depends on if you have your console modded or not. You know, it's probably less than an hour, all things considered, in total runtime. And if you're like me and you're using an SP, well, it's rechargeable. You just plug it in after you're done playing, and you don't have to worry about it ever dying. Wow, it's magic. Let's try the NOR Flash mode if it works. I don't really want to wait for it if we need to reflash the game, though. Switch tab. Oh, it's not in NOR Flash. Maybe that's why it wasn't working. How very fascinating. Well, we'll move on to testing the other one, and I will flash it in another Game Boy. Let me just go ahead and get that process started. Can I do it from here? Yeah, I can. Excellent. All right, I'm gonna swap this back to mode A. I don't think it'll make a difference for power usage, but we'll find out. If anything, it'll make a difference on the Definitive Edition, because the Air is still using NOR Flash no matter which mode it's on. All right, so in the menu, looks to be about the same as the Definitive Edition at 181 to, or 177 to 187 milliamps. Let's go ahead and boot that. It spiked on boot to, I think I saw 254, and it's quite a bit higher even still. All right, so let's get in the game here. And the console is pulling 244 to 247 milliamps. So We're just under a watt now, so this is double the original cart. So if your Game Boy was getting 20 hours, with this thing it's going to get 10. It's not exactly linear, because the more power usage there is, the less efficient it tends to be, especially on older batteries. This isn't a universal, it's just, you know, the more power you draw out of a battery, the lower the voltage will sag. And if that hits one of the low voltage cutoffs, then, well, the console cuts off. So that's kind of gnarly. Let's swap it to mode B and see if that makes any difference whatsoever. None whatsoever. I'm glad that I was able to confirm. Oh, that's interesting. I may have just found a bug. I did not realize that the difference between RTC working and not working is mode B. It doesn't work in mode B. It only works when you direct boot in mode A. Fascinating. Power usage is about the same though. I already forgot what it was, but I see a low of 234 and a high of 258. We're still at 0.9 watts though, which is ridiculous. All right, this thing's done flashing. Move on to the last test with the definitive edition, just so we have a comparison here. And we should be able to direct boot it out of the NOR. Hey look, now my NOR's working. And the power usage actually looks higher than direct boot. Lower than the Air, but higher than direct boot, I believe. I see a low of 198 and a high of 203. Let's try mode B. And hopefully it just works this time. And we don't have to deal with shenanigans. Hey. Yeah, so it's just a bad flash. That makes sense. Weird that that can happen, but makes sense. Slightly higher, but basically the same. Probably negligible, if I'm being honest. I'm seeing a low of 202 and a high of 209. Nope, high of 212. I'd say that's within margin of error. It might as well be the same. So there you go. Now you know. I guess to sum this up, this does just about everything the original Easy Flash Omega Definitive Edition does, but slightly worse. Is it worth half the price for that slightly worse? That's something you'll have to decide for yourself. I already have the Definitive Edition, so obviously it's a no-brainer for me. I'm going to keep using the Definitive Edition. But if you're looking at this thing and deciding what flash cart you want to get, well, decide if you're okay with having to wait a few minutes every time you want to play a new game, and if you're okay with the considerably higher power consumption in said game. My console of choice is this specific Game Boy Advance SP, this Slate. This is one of my prototype designs here. If I wasn't selling them, this is where I would have stopped, but I kept going to make one that was a little bit more palatable. But I like this one. It's good. Anyway, point being, the extra power usage wouldn't really bother me, because when I'm done playing, almost every single time, I just plug the Jesus thing in to charge anyway. I'm never going to sit here and play for 10 hours straight. That's never going to happen. I may play for an hour or two, which is about 1/5 of my battery life, or 1/3 if I'm using this thing, I guess. But regardless, it's worse, but it's not worse enough to be a detriment, I think. I mean, you know your use cases, your usage patterns way better than I will. But for my use cases, my usage patterns, this doesn't matter. This is fine. Half the cost, okay, sure. But you have to wait for every single game to flash. I am of the personal opinion that flash carts like this, multi-ROM carts, they don't really have a place. I recognize the somewhat apparent irony in that statement, since I'm sitting here with 4 of them on my desk and talking about them while I play several of them. But the point I want to make is I think these things have better value, the single game carts, because yeah, you still have to flash the thing, and it's less convenient than this. This is real convenient. But where's the game I want to play? But every time you plug this into a Game Boy, you already know what you're playing. You don't have to sit here and scroll through a menu and wait for it to flash. You just plug it in, you play, it just works. It's fantastic. I don't like flash carts because I'm trying to figure out how to word this without saying something I don't mean. You ever just like sit down and you want to watch something but you don't know what to watch? My generation, we called this channel surfing. You sit down with the TV remote in hand, you flip through all 1,000 channels that your satellite company delivers or whatever. There's not a goddamn thing on. Or perhaps you're scrolling through Netflix for 20 minutes deciding on something to watch. Well, if you get one of these things and throw every game on here, that's going to happen to you. If you get one of these things, you have to make a decision. You flash it, you play that game, and you enjoy it. That's it. There's no decision paralysis. That being said, if you insist on something like this anyway, my recommendation to you is put no more than 3 games on the darn thing. Obviously, I am not eating my own dog food, but like I said, I don't actually play these things. I bought them for the channel, and that's how I use them. If I were using them personally to play games, I would take my own advice there. I'd only throw like 3 ROMs on there. In fact, the game that I most commonly play in my Slate case is, what do you know? It's a single game flash cart. Because I want to play only the one game. And I suppose before I get out of here, let's go over some of the weirder behavior of this thing. I have no idea how this is going to work. I have a theory, but I have no idea. I'm going to switch this thing over to mode B in just a moment, and we're going to see which game it boots, because I have Pokemon Emerald on here as well, in addition to this ROM hack. But Pokemon Emerald was flashed first, so I'm fairly certain that Pokemon Emerald is the only game that'll work in mode B. Yeah, I'm not going to go through that whole thing. You guys get the idea. Flip that over to mode B. On the reason I'm talking about this, on the older Easy Flash games, whenever you swapped games around on the NOR Flash, you could only add new games if there was room. If you were to delete anything, you had to wipe the flash and then reflash. So I'm glad that the ROM hack I was playing didn't overwrite my save. But if I want to play that ROM hack, I have to swap it back to mode A. Yeah. So let's do that. Let's try deleting Pokemon Emerald without reflashing my ROM hack and see what happens. If this behaves like the older Easy Flashes, it should let me delete it. Ah. It doesn't. Yeah, you can only delete them in order. If I try deleting it, it tells me select the latest. So I'll have to delete that. Then I can delete that. And now if I want to boot that other game in NOR Flash mode, which it's an Easy Flash Air, that's my only choice, I would have to reflash it. That's annoying. That's about what I expected, though. The NOR Flash is weird like that. You can flash additional games to it, but then you have to go through the menu to boot any of them. That's a bit of a shame, but I guess that makes sense. That's just how those flash chips work. We could go into a deeper dive, and I could talk about how there's probably no leveling or load balancing on there, so we can speculate on what that might mean long term, but chances are pretty good that won't matter long term. Okay, well, I think that's enough. I have covered everything I set out to and then some, and gotten quite significantly distracted along the way. I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up, and we'll catch us all next time, I suppose. Sorry for the weirdly long time between my last video and this one. It's probably been like a year and a half since I've actually filmed a video. I don't really know what happened. Life just kind of caught up with me, and well, I neglected my channel as a result. But at the same time, there hasn't really been anything like interesting Game Boy related that I've wanted to cover, so I haven't really put in any effort. I don't know. It's weird. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not doing anything, but I'm also not 100% certain I understand what happened in the first place that made me stop making videos, so I can't promise that that trend won't continue. But at the very least, know that it's not intentional. Ooh, it's done flashing. I rambled long enough that we can verify my ROM hack works in mode B. Let's see if it has a save. I doubt it, because I'm pretty sure I hit no when it asked me to back it up. Oh, haha. Nah, it did save it. How clever. Did I hit the wrong thing? I don't know. It doesn't matter. That's it. That's all I've got. I've given you all the information. It is up to you to decide how you use it. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you all next time. Some more info in the description. Yada yada. Peace.